Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. We are continuing the second of our third part special three-part series on China and the Coffee with Dragon. And this is at the onset a week before the Asian New Year or the Lunar New Year, Chinese New Year, of course, starting February 5th, lasting until about February 19th. This series, three-part series of Coffee with Dragon, is an integrated one with the Citizen Financial Initiative, that is the Canadian Citizens Financial Initiative, and of course the World Citizen Finance Initiative, my initiative of studying, learning, acquiring wisdom, understanding, and knowledge about the universe of finance. This Coffee with Dragon special three-part series is dedicated to, of course, all of them are dedicated to world peace, international security, and global prosperity, but principally with a focus on good, cordial, this harmonious, peaceful relations between Canada and China, North America and China, and world Sino world relations. Sino as in China, People's Republic of China. In the first lecture, specifically, the focus was reading, learning about the economy of China. This second part is going to be focused on China as a whole, as a civilization, if you will. Again, this special series, three-part series of Coffee with Dragon, is dedicated to cordial, harmonious, and peaceful relations with China. As Canadian-Chinese relations seem to have been deteriorating since the December 1st arrest of Meng, the CFO, Chief Financial Officer of Huawei, the telecommunications giant of Asia. I'm not going to go into the details of that situation, since did at the beginning of the year in other of my conversations over coffee. This one, the special Coffee with Dragon three-part series, specifically dedicated to normalizing the relations, since it seems that there is an escalation, it's a growing tensions, and the diplomatic crisis between Canada and China has worsened. Of course, myself am Canadian, world LGBTQ citizen, but I'm Canadian. And so this is dedicated specifically to peaceful, harmonious, and cordial Sino-Canadian relations. Grab yourself a cup of coffee. I'm going to read, and of course with commentary and meditations and other dragonisms on China. This reading will be from public information, the internet, although a credible source, sometimes, less oftentimes, depending on where you go. We are Googling China. 1, 2, 3. Once again, Coffee with Dragon, dedicated to peaceful, harmonious, cordial Sino-Canadian, Sino-North American, and Sino-World relations. Just to give an idea, in the top stories now is how China's smartphone brands became global contenders, of course Huawei being one of them. Apple sales revenue fell billions in China, wiping out other gains. Cranky China's posturing puts its neighbors on edge. This is CBC News, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Keep in mind that I'm doing this study session, a meditative session from Hawk Island, also known as Montreal. BBC News reports Kevin and Julia Garnett on their experience as detainees in China. The New York Times, Huawei and China facing US charges, have few ways to retaliate. Fox News, could China leave the US behind in AI arms race? AI stands, of course, for artificial intelligence. The US companies blaming China for their earnings misses. And we have there Tapestry, Apple, Starbucks, Advanced Micro Devices, Intel, Texas Instruments is from Yahoo, Broadcom, and something resorts. CNN, why America's fight with Huawei matters. The Star reports China reacts with warnings to Canada and US to drop charges, Meng extradition. Apple says profits were flat, citing slump in China. Apple blames revenue loss on China censoring video games. And with that stated, on what's in the news, we get the idea of the atmosphere of the trade war going on. Of course, my third and final series will be specifically on the trade war between the United States and China. China. Officially, the People's Republic of China, PRC, is a country in East Asia and the world's most populous country, with a population of around 1,404 billion. That is 1.404 billion, covering approximately 9,600,000 square kilometers. That is 3,700,000 square kilometers. It is the third or fourth largest country by total area. Governed by the Communist Party of China, the state exercises jurisdiction over 22 provinces, 5 autonomous regions, 4 direct controlled municipalities, which are Beijing, Tianjin, Shanghai, Chongqing, and the special administrative regions of Hong Kong and Macau. People's Republic of China. Of course, the flag, well-known flag of China. The anthem is March of the Volunteers, and it's not sure my pronunciation will be correct, exact, or precise, or far from it. Any Mandarin brothers and sisters, if you listen to this lecture conversation series, please let me know how bad on a scale of 1 to 10 were we. Anthem is called Yiyong Ren Xing Sheng Hu. Yiyong Ren Xing Sheng Ru. Tried my best. Cordial, peaceful North American Sino relations. The capital is Beijing. Largest city is Shanghai. Official language is Standard Chinese. Recognized regional languages Mongolian, Uyghur, Tibetan, Zhuang, various others. The script is simplified Chinese. Ethnic groups 91.51% Han, also known as Han Chinese. So 91.51% is said to be the Han ethnic group, Han Chinese. Minorities, 55 minorities, including Zhuang, Man, Uyghur, Hui, Miao, Yu, Tuya, Mongol, and Zhang, Buyei, Korean. Demonym is Chinese. Government. Unitary Marxist-Leninist One-Party Socialist Republic. Party General Secretary and President Xi Jinping. Premier Li Keqiang. Congress Chairman Li Zhangshu. Again, pardon my mispronunciation of these names, if doing my best. Conference Chairman Wang Yang. First Secretary of the Party Secretariat Wang Huning. Secretary of the Discipline Inspection Commission Zhao Leiji. First Vice Premier Han Zheng. Vice President Wang Qishan. Legislature National People's Congress, the formation that is of China. First pre-imperial dynasty, circa 2070 BC, that is before the Common Era. First imperial dynasty is 221 BC, before the Common Era. The Republic was established January 1st, 1912. People's Republic declared 21st of September 1949. People's Republic declared 1949, 21st of September. Proclamation of the People's Republic, 1st of October 1949. It's interesting that those are put apart. Like, it's a few days, 11 days or so, but I guess from a legalistic point of view, the meaning, Proclamation of the People's Republic of China. Current Constitution, 4th of December 1982. Last polity admitted December 20, 1999. And this is a guess, but it's an educated guess. And this, I'm pretty sure it refers to Hong Kong when it was reunified, if you will. 20th of December 1999. Last polity admitted. Polity is meaning basically an entity, an administrative entity, or it could be a political entity. In this case, it's probably referring to Hong Kong. Total area, 9,596,961 square kilometers. That is 3,705,407 square miles. Third or fourth. So it's disputed third or fourth on in terms of area, geographical area. In terms of geographical size, is disputed whether it's the third or the fourth. Russia is of course the first. My beloved true north, strong and free Canada, we are second. And I'm guessing China's contending for the third place. But I'm guessing Australia, maybe United States. Brazil, India. Water in terms of percentage, 2.8%. Population 2016 estimate is 1,403,500,365. 2010, 1 billion, that was the population estimate. 1,339,724,852. Density. I didn't boil water. You did. Not for once, but yeah. Not for once. Pardon this interruption. This is unedited, raw, unscripted. My sister, friend, oftentimes teacher. Something about boiling water for the coffee. Coffee is already being drank from a cup made in China. Density 145 square kilometers. GDP 2019 estimate. PP and PPP, purchasing power parity. I'm not going to go into the calculation of those economic indicators or but I'm just going to the total 27.449 trillion. 1 trillion is 1,000 billion, a billion is 1,000 million. So this would mean this number is 27,449 billion. First, numero uno, number one. IMF data mapper, IMF October 2018. Number one. This, keep in mind, is number one in terms of the total, and this is IMF who reported this number, the International Monetary Fund. If you have a dispute, concern, address it with the esteemed International Monetary Fund and not with yours truly, world LGBTQ rainbow citizen Adrian h.dragan. Estimate again, four. That's not an estimate. That is actually an estimate for 2019. What's it going to be? The total GDP, gross domestic product, the total. I'm going to read the number again. 27.449 trillion. That is 27 and a half almost trillion dollars. A trillion has 12 zeros. And this is macro levels. 27.449 trillion. Trillion has 12 zeros. A million has 6. A billion has 9. A trillion has 12 zeros. 12. So 27.449 trillion. And the point, that's 449 billion. 27 trillion 449 billion. But of course, this is the first in the total, but per capita, it's 19,559. So they dropped to 27th. Of course, because of the huge population. GDP nominal in 2019, again an estimate, and this is again by the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the reputed, some if not controversial, international financial institution. So it's the estimate is 14.172 trillion, and is the second after, of course, the United States. And I'm not going to discuss the difference between nominal and real, because that would be a whole economic class, which I'm not going to go into the present moment in time. Currency is the renminbi, the yuan, the currency of China known as the yuan or renminbi, and the symbol or the trade foreign exchange is CNY. Time zone is China is UTC+8, China Standard Time, and for us EST on Montreal, Hawk Island. So it is actually in Beijing 9:04 a.m. in the morning. Markets are set to open. It's 9 in the morning in Beijing, China. Driving side. They drive on the right side. China emerged as one of the world's earliest civilizations in the fertile basin of the Yellow River in the North China Plain. For millennia, China's political system was based on hereditary monarchies or dynasties, beginning with the semi-legendary Zha's dynasty in the 21st century BCE, before the Common Era. Since then, China has expanded, fractured, and reunified numerous times. In the 3rd century BCE, that is before the Common Era, the Qin reunited core China and established the First Chinese Empire. The succeeding Han Dynasty, which ruled from 206 BC until 220 AD, saw some of the most advanced technology at that time, including paper making and the compass. Just to make a brief comparison, or dragonism, if you will, this time frame, more or less the equivalent of when the Roman Empire ruled the so-called or known Western world. The Han Dynasty established the empire, the first unified Chinese empire, ruled the dynasty from 206 BC, before the Common Era, until about 220 AD. So more or less, take a few years before the Common Era and after Anno Domini in Latin. More a few years, it equivalates to when the Roman Empire, of course, ruled most of the then known world from a Western perspective, of course, because China was an empire, and would say as large and as big, as probably as prosperous, probably with relative peace in that historical context, and in that era, with relative peace for that era and that historical period of time. You can argue, but the thing is, see, somebody who's ethnocentric, who's a Western chauvinist, would say, nah, the Roman Empire was way better than and this and that, and there are arguments for that. I'm willing, if you want to share some of our arguments, but see, Han Dynasty, the Chinese Empire, in that period of time, 2,000 years ago, was it producing advanced technology, compass, paper making. But you're going to argue, and of course I'm a scholar of the Roman Empire, and I am very well aware of the aqueducts and the road building of the Roman Empire. I'm not going to dispute that. I'm not going to dispute the Pax Romana either. Relatively, 156 more or less years of peace. The five good emperors, or five good emperors during the Pax Romana of relative peace during the Western world. That, yes, and that would, but just this point, comparing the Roman Empire and Han Dynasty, Chinese Empire, it will require just a cup of coffee just for that, to really go decade by decade, rulers by rulers, and so on and so forth, and of course the wars and the geographical context, and much more in depth than a superficial more analysis now, because focusing on China. But just to make that comparison, and just an archangel just whispered that made a comparison with United States of America, Canada if you're on the west, and China rising, the past since 1984 to where it's at now in the world. So that there's comparison, parallels there, although paradoxical parallels, if you will, but nonetheless paradoxical parallels. Okay, we continue. The succeeding Han Dynasty, which ruled from 206 BC until 220 AD, saw some of the most advanced technology at that time, including paper making and the compass, along with agricultural and medical improvements. The invention of gunpowder and movable type in the Tang Dynasty, 618 to 907, and the Northern Song completed the four great inventions. Tang culture spread widely in Asia, as the new Silk Route brought traders to as far as Mesopotamia and Horn of Africa. Dynastic rule ended in 1912 with the Xinhai Revolution, when a republic replaced the Qing dynasty. The Chinese Civil War resulted in a division of territory in 1949, when the Communist Party of China established the People's Republic of China, a unitary, one-party sovereign state on mainland China, while the Kuomintang-led government retreated to the island of Taiwan. In the past weeks, I've explained that situation, and I've explained it with actually a pair of my favorite pants, the red pants. Red's my favorite color. There's a dragonism information, and it says made in ROC, Republic of China, and then it says ROC, made in ROC, and Taiwan, Republic of China, Taiwan, because Taiwan is independent, although not officially recognized by mainland China, officially has the name of Republic of China. And to understand the dynamics it could play with Taiwan, and some say that's where third war will start, because of Taiwan and the United States and the West and other powers supporting Taiwan, and China, who says that it's a rogue, sort of a rogue state, a rogue breakaway province, whatever the, perhaps we're misrepresenting our terminology also, in because language, of course, in translation sometimes we lose the understanding, the meaning of words, and especially, anyways, I'm not going to that, but nonetheless, to understand it, to understand Taiwan, China, that how come Taiwan is also called the Republic of China, so we have to go to 1949 and before, of course. It's many years of conflict. Mao Zedong and Chiang Kai-shek. Chinese Civil War. The Chinese Civil War resulted in a division of territory in 1949, when the Communist Party of China established the People's Republic of China. See, This People's Republic of China was established by Mao Zedong, and the Republic of China, also known as Taiwan, by Chiang Kai-shek, established a unitary one-party sovereign state on mainland China, while the Kuomintang-led government retreated to the island of Taiwan. The political status of Taiwan remains disputed. Since the introduction of economic reforms in 1978, China's economy has been one of the world's fastest growing, with annual growth rates consistently above 6%. That is truly amazing. For more than 37 years, it has averaged growth of 6%. Of course, there's failures and there's problems internally, but this is at the macro level. Of course, there's been failures in business, people who fail, who rose, who got up again in these situations and what have you. But overall, the macro level economy of China. As of 2016, it is the world's second largest economy by nominal GDP and largest by purchasing power parity, what's known as PPP. China is also the world's largest exporter and second largest importer of goods. China is a recognized nuclear weapons state and has the world's largest standing army and second largest defense budget. Second largest defense budget. The PRC is a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, as it replaced the ROC, Republic of China, which is Taiwan, basically, in 1971, as well as an active global partner of ASEAN Plus mechanism. China is also a leading member of numerous formal and informal multilateral organizations, including the Shanghai Cooperation Organization under the SCO, WTO, known as the World Trade Organization, APEC. APEC stands for Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation. BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. The BCIM and the G20. In recent times, China has been widely characterized as a global superpower. And this is from ABC. China's 40 years of economic reform that opened the country up and turned it into a superpower. The end of engagement in The Economist. Names of China. China has simplified top and traditional bottom. Simplified Chinese and traditional Chinese. I'm going to show it. I'm going to actually try to replicate it as much as I can. So now, a first in my life, I'm going to try to write, and we'll write, not try, but we'll do it. We'll love it for Chinese civilization, Sino civilization. We'll write China in simplified Chinese and traditional Chinese. So for the first time in this lifetime, I'm writing China as it's written in Chinese with the characters in both the simplified, what's called the simplified, and the traditional form. Simplified and traditional. Ta-da! This was a live exercise. So, hey? Nope. Why, you need my help? Okay. So that was my attempt, first in this lifetime, to write China in the simplified Chinese form and in the traditional. Hanyu Pinyin Rongwu, literal meaning middle or central state. Hanyu Pinyin Rongwu. Other Mandarin we have there. Wu, romanization Tonghu, Tongko, Tongko, Tongko. Cantonese also, of course. Nungwok, Nungwok. Southern Ming Tongwok, Eastern. And now, of course, and this is going to be my second attempt, but not today, to write People's Republic of China. People's Republic of China in simplified top and traditional bottom. For next time, I've written China and fascinating. There's the Tibetan name for China. It's fascinating also. Tibetan script. The English word China is first attested in Richard Eden's 1555 translation of the 1516 journal of the Portuguese explorer Duarte Barbosa. The demonym, that is the name for the people, and Adjectival form Chinese developed later on the model of Portuguese Chinese and French Chinois. Portuguese China is thought to derive from Persian Chin, which may be traced further back to Sanskrit China, Kina. Kina was first used in early Hindu scripture, including the Mahabharata, 5th century before the Common Era, and the Laws of Manu, 2nd century BC. In 1655, Martini suggested that the word China is derived ultimately from the name of the Qin dynasty, 221 to BC, a proposal supported by many later scholars, although there are also a number of alternative suggestions. The official name of the modern state of the People's Republic of China, Chinese pinyin Ronghua Renmin Gonghua. The shorter form is China, or Ronghua, from Rong, central, Guo state, Rongguo, central state, Rongguo, central state, a term which developed under the Western Zhao dynasty in reference to its royal demise. It was then applied to the area around Luoy, present-day Luoyang, during the Eastern Zhao, and then to China's central plain, before being used as an occasional synonym for the state under the king. That's not the king as in a K-I-N-G, but the king as in the dynasty Q-I-N-G. It was often used as a cultural concept to distinguish the Huaxia people from perceived barbarians. The name Rongguo is also translated as Middle Kingdom in English. A more literally or inclusive name, alluding to the land of Chinese civilization, is Ronghua. It developed during the Wei and Jin dynasties as a contraction of the central state of Huaxia. Before the PRC's establishment, the proposed name of the country was the People's Democratic Republic of China. During the first CPCC held on 15th of June 1949. During the 1950s and 60s, after the defeat of the Kuomintang in the Chinese Civil War, it was also referred to as Communist China or Red China, to be differentiated from Nationalist China or Free China. Prehistory. Archaeological evidence suggests that early hominids inhabited China between 2.24 million and 250,000 years ago. The hominid fossils of Peking man, a Homo erectus who used fire, were discovered in a cave at Shouquan near Beijing, have been dated to between 680,000 and 780,000 years ago. The fossilized teeth of Homo sapiens dated to 125,000 80,000 years ago have been discovered in Fuyan Cave in Dao County, Hunan. Chinese proto-writing existed in Jianghu around 7000 BC before Common, Damaidi around 6000 BC, Dadiwan from 5800 to 5400 BC, and Bangpo dating from the 5th millennium BC. Some scholars have suggested that the Jiahu symbol, 7th millennium BC, constituted the earliest Chinese writing system. Early dynastic rule. Qing ruled the ruins of the capital of the late Shang dynasty. According to Chinese tradition, the first dynasty was the Xia, which emerged around 2100 before the Common Era. According to Chinese tradition, the first dynasty was the Xia. That's spelled in English at least. X-I-A, Xia, which emerged around 21 before the Common Era. The dynasty was considered mythical by historians until scientific excavation found early Bronze Age sites early to Henan in 1959. It remains unclear whether these sites are the remains of the Xia dynasty or of another culture from the same period. The succeeding Zhang dynasty is the earliest to be confirmed by contemporary records. The Zhang ruled the plain of the Yellow River in eastern China from the 17th to the 11th century BCE, before the Common Era. Their oracle bone script from circa 1500 before the Common Era represents the oldest form of Chinese writing yet found and is a direct ancestor of modern Chinese characters. The Zhang, S-H-A-N-G, was conquered by the Zhao, Z-H-O-U, who ruled between the 11th and 5th centuries before the Common Era through centralized authority, though centralized authority was slowly eroded by feudal warlords. Some principalities eventually emerged from the weakened Zhao, no longer fully obeyed the Zhao king, and continually waged war with each other in the 300-year spring and autumn period. By the time of the Warring States period of the 5th and 3rd centuries BC, there were 7 powerful sovereign states in what is now China, each with its own king, ministry, and army. China's first emperor, King Shi Huang, is famed for having united the Warring States walls to form the Great Wall of China. Most of the present structure, however, dates to the Ming Dynasty. The Warring States period ended in 221 before the Common Era, after the state of Qing conquered the other 6 kingdoms, reunited China, and established the dominant order of totalitarian autocracy. King Zheng of Qing proclaimed himself the first emperor of the Qing dynasty, Qin as in Q-I-N dynasty. He enacted Qin's legalist reforms throughout China, notably the forced standardization of Chinese characters, measurements, road widths, car axis length, and currency. His dynasty also conquered the Yu tribes in Guangxi, Guangdong, and Vietnam. The Qin dynasty lasted only 15 years, falling soon after the first emperor's death, as his harsh authoritarian policies led to widespread rebellion. Following a widespread civil war, during which the imperial library at Xiangyang was burned, the Han dynasty emerged to rule China between 206 before the Common Era and 220 the Common Era, creating a cultural identity among its populace still remembered in the ethnonym of the Han Chinese. The Han expanded the empire's territory considerably, with military campaigns reaching Central Asia, Mongolia, South Korea, and Yunnan, and the recovery of Guangdong and northern Vietnam from Nanyue. Han involvement in Central Asia and Sogdia helped establish the land route of the Silk Road, replacing the earlier path over the Himalayas to India. Han China gradually became the largest economy of the ancient world. Some made, of course, the parallel and the paradoxical parallel to today, the China, right? Today, the Roman Empire of the past, and comparing the United States of America with the Roman Empire, and China, of course, with the Han. Han China gradually became the largest economy of the ancient world. Despite the Han's initial decentralization and the official abandonment of the Qin that is QIN, philosophy of legalism in favor of Confucianism. Confucianism is Confucius. Queen's legalist institutions and policies continued to be employed by the Han government and its successors. There's a picture there of a terracotta army circa 210 before the Common Era, which was discovered outside the mausoleum of the first Qin Emperor, Naoxian. After the end of the Han dynasty, a period of strife known as Three Kingdoms followed, whose central figures were later immortalized in one of the four classics of Chinese literature. At its end, Wei was swiftly overthrown by the Jin dynasty. The Jin fell to civil war upon the ascension of a developmentally disabled emperor. Whatever that means, developmentally, that's what it says. No, I'm not making this up. Of a developmentally disabled emperor. Developmentally disabled emperor. The five barbarians then invaded and ruled northern China as the 16 states. The Xia unified them as the Northern Wei. The Northern Wei, whose Emperor Xiao Wen reversed his predecessor's apartheid policies and enforced a drastic Sinification on his subjects, largely integrating them into Chinese culture. In the south, the general Liu Yu secured the abdication of the Jin in favor of the Liu Song. The various successors of these states became known as the Northern and Southern dynasties, with the two areas finally reunited by the Sui in 581. The Sui restored the Han to power through China reformed its agriculture and economy, constructed the Grand Canal, and patronized Buddhism. However, they fell quickly when their conscription for public works and a failed war in northern Korea provoked widespread unrest. Under the succeeding Tang and Song dynasties, Chinese economy, technology, and culture entered a golden age. The Tang Empire returned control of the western regions and the Silk Road and made the capital Chang'an a cosmopolitan urban center. A cosmopolitan urban center. However, it was devastated and weakened by the Anshi rebellion in the 8th century. In 907, the Tang disintegrated completely when the local military governors became ungovernable. The Song dynasty ended the separatist situation in 1960, leading to a balance of power between the Song and Khitan Liao. The Song was the first government in world history to issue paper money and the first Chinese polity to establish a permanent standing navy, which was supported by the development of the sailboat. I guess something with the sails. It's blocked by a picture. So the Song was the first government in world history to issue paper money, because prior was coins and gold coins and silver and copper and what have you. The Song was the first government in world history to issue paper money and the first Chinese polity to establish a permanent standing navy. Between the 10th and 11th centuries, the population of China doubled in size to around 100 million. Wow. Mostly in the 10th and 11th centuries, the population of China population of China doubled in size to around 100 million people, mostly because of the expansion of rice cultivation in central and southern China and the production of abundant food surpluses. The Song dynasty also saw a revival of Confucianism in response to the growth of Buddhism during the Tang, and a flourishing of philosophy and the arts as landscape art and porcelain were brought to new levels of maturity and complexity. However, the military weakness of the Song army was observed by the Jurchen Jin dynasty. In 1127, Emperor Huizong of Song and the capital Bianjing were captured during the Jin-Song Wars. The remnant of the Song retreated to southern China. The 13th century brought the Mongol conquest of China. In 1271, the Mongol leader Kublai Khan established the Yuan dynasty. The Yuan conquered the last remnant of the Song dynasty in 1279. Before the Mongol invasion, the population of Song China was 120 million citizens. This was reduced to 60 million by the time of the census in 1300. Bing Tiho, an estimate of the total population of Songqing China. This is from a 1970s book on study book on Chinese population. I'm learning. Before the Mongol invasion, the population of Song China was 120 million citizens. This was reduced to 60 million by the time of the census in 1300. A peasant named Shu Yongzhang overthrew the Yuan in 1368 and founded the Ming dynasty as the Hongwu Emperor. Peasant became the Hongwu Emperor. Peasant named Zhu Yongzhang overthrew the Yuan in 1368 and founded the Ming dynasty as the Hongwu Emperor. Under the Ming dynasty, China enjoyed another golden age, developing one of the strongest navies in the world and a rich and prosperous economy amid the flourishing of art and culture. It was during this time period that Admiral Zheng He led the Ming treasure voyages throughout the Indian Ocean, reaching as far as East Africa. In the early years of the Ming dynasty, China's capital was moved from Nanjing to Beijing, where it is today, Beijing. With the budding of capitalism, philosophers such as Wang Yangming further critiqued and expanded Neo-Confucianism with concepts of individualism and equality of four occupations. The scholar official stratum became a supporting force of industry and commerce in the tax boycott movements, which, together with the famines and defense against Japanese invasions of Korea 1592 to 1598 and Manchu invasions, led to an exhausted treasury. In 1644, Beijing was captured by a coalition of peasant rebel forces led by Li Zhisheng. The Hongzhen emperor committed suicide when the city fell. The Manchu Qing dynasty, then allied with Ming dynasty general Wu Shangui, overthrew Li's short-lived Shun dynasty and subsequently seized control of Beijing, which became the new capital of the Qing dynasty. End of dynastic rule. A 19th century depiction of the Taiping Rebellion, 1850-1864. The Qing dynasty, which lasted from 1644 until 1912 was the last imperial dynasty of China. Its conquest of the Ming 1618-1683 cost 25 million lives, and the economy of China shrank drastically. After the southern Ming ended, the further conquest of the Dzungar Khanate added Mongolia, Tibet, and Xinjiang to the empire. The centralized autocracy was strengthened to crack down on anti-king sentiment with a policy of valuing agriculture and restraining commerce. The hygiene, sea-ban, and ideological control is represented by the literary inquisition, causing social and technological stagnation. In the mid-19th century, the dynasty experienced Western imperialism in the Opium Wars with Britain and France. China was forced to pay compensation, open treaty ports, allow extraterritoriality for foreign nationals, and cede Hong Kong to the British under the 1842 Treaty of Nanking, the first of the unequal treaties. The First Sino-Japanese War, 1894 to 95, resulted in King China's loss of influence in the Korean peninsula, as well as the cession of Taiwan to Japan. The Qing dynasty also began experiencing internal unrest, in which tens of millions of people died, especially in the White Lotus Rebellion, the failed Taiping Rebellion that ravaged southern China in the 1850s and 1860s, and the Dungan Revolt, 1862-77, in the northwest. The initial success of the self-strengthening movement of the 1860s was frustrated by a series of military defeats in the 1880s and 1890s. In the 19th century, the Great Chinese Diaspora began. Losses due to immigration were added to by conflicts and catastrophes such as the Northern Chinese Famine of 1876-79, in which between 9 and 13 million people died. The Guangxu Emperor drafted a reform plan in 1898 to establish a modern constitutional monarchy, but these plans were thwarted by the Empress Dowager Cixi. The ill-fated anti-foreign Boxer Rebellion of 1899-1901 further weakened the dynasty. Although Cixi sponsored a program of reforms, the Xinhai Revolution of 1911-1912 brought an end to the Qing dynasty and established the Republic of China. Republic of China, 1912-1949. Main article, Republic of China, 1912-1949. Sun Yat-sen proclaiming the establishment of the ROC, 1912. On 1st of January 1912, the Republic of China was established, and Sun Yat-sen of the Kuomintang, the CMT or Nationalist Party, was proclaimed provisional president. However, the presidency was later given to Yuan Shikai, a former Qing general who in 1915 proclaimed himself Emperor of China. In the face of popular condemnation and opposition from his own Beiyang army, he was forced to abdicate and re-establish the republic. After Yuan Shihai's death in 1916, China was politically fragmented. Its Beijing-based government was internationally recognized but virtually powerless. Regional warlords controlled most of its territory. In the late 1920s, the Kuomintang under Chiang Kai-shek, the then principal of the Republic of China Military Academy, was able to reunify the country under its own control with a series of deft military and political maneuverings, known collectively as the Northern Expedition. The Kuomintang moved the nation's capital to Nanjing and implemented political tutelage, an intermediate stage of political development outlined in Sun Yat-sen's Sunming program for transforming China into a modern democratic state. The political division in China made it difficult for Chiang to battle the Communist People's Liberation Army, against whom the Kuomintang had been warring since 1927 in the Chinese Civil War. This war continued successfully for the Kuomintang, especially after the PLA retreated in the Long March, until Japanese aggression in the 1936 Xia incident forced Chiang to confront Imperial Japan. The Second Sino-Japanese War, 1937-1945, a theater of World War II, forced an uneasy alliance between the Kuomintang and the PLA. Japanese forces committed numerous war atrocities against the civilian population in all, as well as many as 20 million Chinese civilians died. An estimated 200,000 Chinese were massacred in the city of Nanjing alone during the Japanese occupation. During the war, China, along with the UK, the US, and the Soviet Union, were referred to as trustship of the powerful, and were recognized as the Allied Big Four in the declaration by United Nations. Along with the other three great powers, China was one of the four major allies of World War II and was later considered one of the primary victors in the war. After the surrender of Japan in 1945, Taiwan, including the Pescadores, was returned to Chinese control. China emerged victorious but war-ravaged and financially drained. The continued distrust between the Kuomintang and the Communists led to the resumption of civil war. Constitutional rule was established in 1947, but because of the ongoing unrest, many provisions of the ROC constitution were never implemented in mainland China. In mainland China. People's Republic of China, 1949 to present day. Major combat in the Chinese Civil War ended in 1949 with the Communist Party in control of most of mainland China and the Kuomintang retreating offshore, reducing the ROC's territory to only Taiwan, Hainan, and their surrounding islands. On 21st of September 1949, Communist Party Chairman Mao Zedong proclaimed the establishment of the People's Republic of China. This was followed by a mass celebration in Tiananmen Square on October 1st, which became the new country's first national day. In 1950, the People's Liberation Army succeeded in capturing Hainan from the ROC and incorporating Tibet. However, remaining Kuomintang forces continued to wage an insurgency in western China throughout the 1950s. In modern U.S. history studies, the founding of PRC China is often termed as the loss of China, as reflected in U.S. state policy documents of the time, which thinkers such as Noam Chomsky called the beginning of McCarthyism. The regime consolidated its popularity among the peasants through land reform, which included the execution of between 1 and 2 million landlords. China developed an independent industrial system and its own nuclear weapons. The Chinese population increased from 550 million in 1950 to 900 million in 1974. However, the Great Leap Forward a large-scale economic and social reform project, resulted in an estimated 45 million deaths between 1958 and 1961, mostly from starvation. In 1966, Mao and his allies launched the Cultural Revolution, sparking a decade of political recrimination and social upheaval which lasted until Mao's death in 1976. In October 1971, the PRC replaced the Republic of China in the United Nations and took its seat as a permanent member of the Security Council. After Mao's death, the Gang of Four was quickly arrested and held responsible for the excesses of the Cultural Revolution. Deng Xiaoping took power in 1978 and instituted significant economic reforms. The Communist Party loosened governmental control over citizens' personal lives, and the communes were gradually disbanded in favor of working contracted to households. This marked China's transition from a planned economy to a mixed economy with an increasingly open market environment. China and Socialism. It's from a book or a review or it's an article. China and Socialism, Market Reform and Class Struggle. Retrieved October 30, 2008. This marked China's transition from a planned economy to a mixed economy with an increasingly open market environment. China adopted its current constitution on December 4, 1982. In 1989, the violent suppression of student protests in Tiananmen Square brought sanctions against the Chinese government from various countries. Jiang Zemin, Li Peng, and Zhu Rongji led the nation in the 1990s. Under their administration, China's economic performance pulled an estimated 150 million peasants out of poverty and sustained an average annual gross domestic product growth rate of 11.2%. People's Daily, 1st of March 2000, retrieved July 10, 2013. China's average economic growth in 90s ranked first in the world. The country formally joined the World Trade Organization in 2001 and maintained its high rate of economic growth under Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao's leadership in the 2000s. However, rapid growth also severely impacted the country's resources and the environment and caused major social displacement. Living standards continued to improve rapidly despite the late 2000 recession. They're referring to the what's so-called Great Recession. It started end of July 2007. But centralized political control remained tight. Preparations for a decadal Communist Party leadership change in 2012 were marked by factional disputes and political scandals. During China's 18th National Communist Party Congress in November 2012, Hu Jintao was replaced as General Secretary of the Communist Party by Xi Jinping. Under Xi, XI, Chinese government began large-scale efforts to reform its economy, which has suffered from structural instabilities and slowing growth. The Xi Li administration also announced major reforms to the one-child policy and prison system. Geography. China's landscape is vast and diverse, ranging from the Gobi and Tacna deserts in the north to subtropical forests in the wetter south. The Himalaya, Karakoram, Pamir, and Tian Shan mountain ranges separate China from much of South and Central Asia. The Yangtze and Yellow rivers, the third and sixth longest in the world, respectively, run from the Tibetan Plateau to the densely populated eastern seaboard. China's coastline along the Pacific Ocean is 14,500 kilometers, that is 9,000 miles long, and is bounded by the Bohai, Yellow, East China, and South China Seas. China connects to the Kazakh border to the Eurasian steppe, which has been an artery of communication between East and West since the Neolithic through the steppe route, the ancestor of the terrestrial Silk Road. Landscape and climate. The territory of China lies between latitudes 18 and 54 north and longitudes 73 degrees and 135 east. China's landscapes vary significantly across its vast width. In the east, along the shores of the Yellow Sea and the East China Sea, there are extensive and densely populated alluvial plains, while on the edges of the Inner Mongolian Plateau, in the north, broad grasslands predominate. Southern China is dominated by hills and low mountain ranges, while the Central East holds the deltas of China's two main rivers, the Yellow River and the Yangtze River. China's climate is mainly dominated by dry seasons and wet monsoons. A major environmental issue in China is the continued expansion of its deserts, particularly the Gobi deserts. Biodiversity. Panda. China is one of the 17 mega-diverse countries, lying in two of the world's major ecozones, the Palearctic and the Indo-Malaya. By one measure, China has over 34,687 species of animals and vascular plants, making it the third most biodiverse country in the world after Brazil and Colombia. The country signed the Rio de Janeiro Convention on Biological Diversity on 11th of June 1992. China is home to at least 551 species of mammals, the third highest such number in the world. 1,221 species of birds, 424 species of reptiles, and 233 species of amphibians. China has over 32,000 species of vascular plants and is home to a variety of forest types. Coal coniferous forests predominate in the north of the country. Environmental issues. They have recent decades, China has suffered from severe environmental deterioration and pollution. Political geography. People's Republic of China is the second largest country in the world by land area after Russia. It is the most populous. China's constitution states that the People's Republic of China is a socialist state under the People's Democratic Dictatorship led by the working class and based on the alliance of workers and peasants, and that the state organs apply the principle of democratic centralism. Wow. China's constitution states that the People's Republic of China is a socialist state under the People's Democratic Dictatorship led by the working class and based on the alliance of workers and peasants, and that the state organs apply the principle of democratic centralism. PRC is one of the world's only socialist states openly endorsing communism. The Chinese government has been variously described as communist and socialist, but also as authoritarian and corporatist. China's constitution states that the People's Republic of China is a socialist state under the People's Democratic Dictatorship led by the working class and based on the alliance of workers and peasants, and that the state organs apply the principle of democratic centralism. Its current political, ideological, and economic system has been termed by its leaders as the People's Democratic Dictatorship, or socialism with Chinese characteristics, which is Marxism adapted to Chinese circumstances, and the socialist market economy, respectively. China's constitution declares that the country is ruled under the leadership of the Communist Party of China. As China is a de facto one-party state, the General Secretary, party leader, holds ultimate power and authority over state and government, serving as the paramount leader. This is from New York Times. China's chairman of everything, behind Xi Jinping's many titles. The New York Times, 25th of October 2016. Mr. Xi's most important title is General Secretary, the most powerful position in the Communist Party. In China's one-party system, this ranking gives him virtually unchecked authority over the government. The electoral system is pyramidal. The political system is decentralized and provincial sovereignty of a single one autonomy. China supports the Leninist principle of democratic centralism, but critics describe the elected National People's Congress as a rubber stamp body.